Hey, Shalom. I'd like to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham Rakakudash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. This is the brother Yakanan from the GMS Houston camp. And hey, it's a lucky for my voice. It's been kind of in and out. But that's a little better. It might be a little better, but hey, Salaki, whatever this thing going around, my voice has been kind of scratchy, and notice if I talk too much or whatever like that, it'll make me have to cough, and it really hurts to cough. But so, hey, Lord willing, I'll make it through this, and which it ain't that bad. It's extremely painful to cough, which I don't know if that's the symptoms of what's going around. But anyway, just to jump right into it, this is linking the scriptures, linking prophecy to real world events, and the scriptures give you the eye salve to identify nations, to identify the times that we're in. And this is a lesson going into that, identifying the nation who is at Edom, the time that we're in, the end times, what empire is ruling right now, and their behavior. So let's just jump right into it. This is Daniel chapter 7, and I'll start at verse 7. And this chapter in particular is going into 4 beasts. The same thing with Daniel chapter 2. But Daniel chapter 2 is going into a statue, an image, which is broken up into 4 different, segments. And the same thing, this here is going into the same thing, but it's in the form of beasts. So the different segments that you had, which, for this here in particular, because I got Daniel 2 pulled up as well. So this here, Daniel 7, you had 4 beasts. You had which represent different kingdoms, which is let me see here. You had the Assyrians, the Babylonians, which kind of the Assyrians ruled before the Babylonians, but the Babylonians took over. Then you had the Persians and the Medes, and then you had the Greeks. And then in this 4th beast, you had the Roman Empire. So this is Daniel chapter 7 and verse 7. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. So this beast, was dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and had great iron teeth, meaning it's military might. It's pretty much the Roman Empire, which it got most of its tactics from the Greek Empire, but it stomped out everybody in its path. And before I go too far, let's go and get this in First Maccabees, because this beast was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. So this is First Maccabees. Let me see. Well, I had this for another verse. Slacking. All right. You know what? I'll start it here at verse 13, because it's gonna come into play later. And this is First Maccabees chapter 8 and 13, going into the Roman Empire. And it says, First Maccabees 8 and 13, also that whom they would help to a kingdom. Matter of fact, let me start up a bit. I'm going to start at verse 11. It was told him besides how they destroyed and brought under their dominion all other kingdoms and isles that at any time resisted them. So they touching on how that fourth beast was, they everything in the path devoured it. It was told him beside how they destroyed and brought under their dominion all other kingdoms and isles that at any time resisted them. But with their friends and such as relied upon them, they kept amity, and that they had conquered kingdoms both far and nigh, insomuch as all that heard of their name were afraid of them. So meaning, like the heathen, the name of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, is dreadful to the heathen. Well, hearing about the Romans, it made them dreadful. Going even back to Daniel's 7th chapter. I mean, they were dreadful. Also that, whom they would help to a kingdom, those reign, and whom again they would, they displace. Finally, that they were greatly exalted. Even now, what happened a few days ago with Maduro, they just came in there, snatched them up, took over. And they have a history of that. Speaking of Babylon the Great, America, they have a history of displacing rulers and setting up puppet leaders. So, continuing, this is how they operate, how they move. You identifying characteristics. You have a criminal, and he has a certain movement pattern. He goes after these certain things. He moves at this certain period, and you pick up his motives, and how he moves, how he operates, and you're able to track him down. And the scriptures are giving us this. They're able to track down who is this ruling in the last days? Who is Esau Edom? But continuing, verse 14, yet for all this, none of them wore a crown or was clothed in purple to be magnified thereby. So all the kingdoms, especially when you're reading about the four beasts, all the kingdoms before the Roman Empire, they all had kings that would be set up. And the heir to the king, the prince, he would be set up to rule. But this kingdom was different. They had Caesars, they had elections, and I'll continue. Moreover, how they had made for themselves a senate house, wherein 320 men sat in council daily, consulting always for the people, to the end they might be well ordered. So they had senates. They had the same thing today in the U.S. When you look at the similarities between the U.S. and the Roman Empire, it's extremely similar. There might be a little few differences here and there, but when you even look into the inspiration of the U.S., it's going back to the Roman Empire. And they committed their government to one man every year, the Caesar, the same thing, today, a president, who ruled over all their country, and that all were obedient to that one, and that there was neither envy nor emulation among them. So every year they committed they voted. In other words, they had a Senate. They had people that discuss the needs of the people, discuss the country matters. It's the same thing today. And, just to go back to this is Daniel 7 and verse 7 again. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped a residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns, representing the 10 vassal states. There's, which I can't remember off the top of my head, but today they would represent, EU countries, NATO countries, or mostly EU countries, because it would be the European Economic Community over there. It's those same countries there. Matter of fact, let me pull this up. It might say it. No, it doesn't say it here, but that's all right. And I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. So this horn that came up represents America, and these other 3 horns were before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. This represents America and the countries that were here before this, the different kingdoms that were here before this. You had Spain, Britain, and France, which America came up out of Britain. So it represents also the 3 wars that occurred for America to get this vast land. So before whom 3 fell of the first horns were plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were the eyes like a man, and a mouth speaking great things. So, but this represents that kingdom. So I'm going to go to Daniel chapter 2 and verse 40, and it says here, the little header, it says Rome. This is Daniel 2 and 40, and the 4th kingdom, which this is, a dream that Nebuchadnezzar had of a statue. And this 4th kingdom, would be one of the last kingdoms to rule before the return of our Lord Yahushua, because he's that rock that breaks the entire image. And the 4th kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces and bruise. So this is speaking of the same thing, Daniel in chapter 7. The same thing, same kingdom. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. So, you know what, matter of fact, let me start up a little bit. See. Okay. Well, in the image, I'll start up a bit at 2 and 31. So thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image which represents the 4 major kingdoms that will rule on the earth. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. So each different segment of metal represents a different kingdom. So his legs of iron, that's representing the Roman Empire. And when it says his feet part of iron and part of clay, this represents the time that we're in now. This revived Roman Empire, which is partly weak and partly strong. So jumping back down, and the 4th kingdom shall be as strong as iron, verse 40, Daniel 2 and 40, and the 4th kingdom shall be as strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. So this kingdom here is divided. You have NATO, EU, these different countries that work together, but they're truly divided. They have different ideologies. They have different political, I would say political systems. They have different economic values, different economic systems. Some are poor economically, some are poor militarily. They don't truly mix. And you see when you look into NATO, EU, there's divides, there's problems. Especially EU. A few years ago, you had Brexit. You have different countries that want to leave the EU, that want to leave NATO. So, but there shall be in it the strength of the iron, for as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, So the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. So you have some countries like Britain, for instance, they're strong. They have strong, military. They have a strong economy. Like the U.S., part of NATO. It's not a part of the EU, but it's a part of NATO. It's strong militarily, and it rules over other nations economically. So even though it's not a part of the EU, it'll still have a indirect play in the EU. But anyway, these different countries, they don't mix together. You'll have some countries that have a big military, but they're weak economically. So, continuing, this is Revelation 17 and verse 16, just to go continuing on the point of these nations, especially NATO and the EU, working together with the U.S., which represents, that the revived portion of the or that little horn, which we're in that revived portion of the Roman Empire, which is in the iron and the clay. So this is I'll just get to the point. This is Revelation 17 and verse 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So these are all different countries, different kingdoms, which represents the NATO and the EU countries, or primarily the EU countries, that have given their power over to the revived Roman Empire, that are down with it. And now you jump up to the top. Here we go. Revelation 17 and 1. And there came out one of the 7 angels which had 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Now, this whore represents America. She's the one that's controlling the beast, controlling NATO and the EU, that's controlling everything, and that sitting upon many waters. Let me jump down, and we're going to get to that. Because the beast is made up of all these different kingdoms. They're all giving their strength to that. And and America, like I was saying, is sitting on top of all of them, controlling everything. And let me see here. Verse 15. And he saith unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples, multitude, and nations, and tongues. So, this whore, Babylon the Great, America, that little horn that popped up in Daniel 7, is the whore that's controlling everything, sitting upon, it says, people, multitudes, nations, and tongues. So it's ruling over the entire world. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. So even though these kingdoms are giving their power to the beast, and the whore is ruling over them, they hate the whore, because she's a whore. She's got the whole herb drunk. She's just doing whatever she wants to. She's doing whatever she wants to. And shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And it's not for no reason. And we're going to go into it. At which it even mentions it in First Maccabees. It says, hey, whoever they wanted to displace, they would. Whoever they wanted to help, they would. In this place, it takes what it wants. The U.S. is eyeing so many different places. Greenland, Mexico, the whole Western hemisphere, and really the entire world, because they're ruling over everything. And it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So, they're the nations that have nuclear arms, ICBMs, whatever they have, they're gonna shoot their arrows on Babylon the Great and burn this place up. The entire world is. Every nation, China, Russia, NATO nations, every nation that has weaponry, hypersonic missiles, whatever, they're going to shoot on them. But China, Russia, those are going to be the primary ones, but also those NATO, those allies that America thought they had. This is verse 17, for the Most High have put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. So the Most High, meaning that the Most High has control, the Most High works the mind of the kings, works at the hearts of the king. He has control over the mind, so he put it in their minds to help, to give their power over to the beast, to agree. Even though they hate it, they down with it until the time of judgment, which is coming shortly. Verse 18, I'll read that. And the woman which thou sawest is the great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. And who else? Who else is ruling? Who else is ruling the earth? Let me pull that up. Let me see if I can get that. Oh, man, I didn't. And so I put it in Google. I said, what country rules the earth? And of course, you're gonna be like, oh, nobody technically rules the earth. But it says no single country rules the earth. Instead, global power is shared and contested, though the United States is often considered the most dominant due to its massive military, largest economy, GDP, technological innovation, and cultural influence, closely followed by other major powers like China, Russia, and India. And they're not even close. Ain't nobody walking around, wearing some kung fu shoes. Ain't nobody walking around with no babushkas or whatever. And ain't nobody for sure walking around with the whatever India doing, man. That's ain't nobody walking around with that. But anyway, let's see. Let me continue reading. Different metrics, military, economic, cultural, and diplomatic yield slightly varied rankings, but the U.S. consistently leads in overall power, with China and Russia strong contenders for influence. Now, we're not talking about the scriptures here is not talking about a strong contender for second place, third place. No, it's talking about who's ruling right now. So that's all. The scriptures pointed out, they give the characteristics, it lays it out plainly, even though the scriptures prophecy needs to be interpreted. You need a teacher. You need a teacher that's been anointed, and that's here at a Great Millstone, starting with the apostles and elders. But you're not going to learn that just from the world. You're not just going to be able to open the book up and be like, oh, that's talking about the U.S. No. Anyway, continuing. I'm not sure why I had this pulled up. Let me see. Oh, that was for it. I mean, that's good, but that was for a different lesson. My bad. Even though, hey, you know what? Because it is talking about that moment in Revelation 17, but this is speaking of more nations, not just, the NATO countries. So this is Jeremiah chapter 15, verse 9. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country. So that's a lot of different nations, but that's primarily speaking of Russia, which is also known as Gog, from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. So they're going to shoot arrows at her. I mean, while it says burn her with fire, and I'll continue reading. But that's pretty much it. The point was there. But this is a video. Let's get this real quick.
I would like to take this opportunity to send a message directly to the United States of America. The US is a big country and Denmark is a small one. We have looked up to you and you have inspired us. Because since the Second World War, you have defended the free world, created prosperity and progress, peace and freedom. And we have tried to give back to you by always supporting you and by showing up every time you call. In us, you have a friend that has always kept our word, a friend you have always been able to rely on. There is nothing I want more than for our friendship to continue. Because if we let ourselves be divided as allies, then we do our foes a favor. And I will do everything that I can to prevent that from happening. Therefore, when you ask our businesses to invest in the US, they do. When you ask us to spend more on defense, we do. And when you ask of us to strengthen security in the Arctic, we are on the same page. But when you demand to take over a part of the kingdoms of Denmark territory, when we are met by pressure and by threats from our closest ally, what are we to believe in about the country that we have admired for so many years? The country that, if any, have stood up for others' freedom. You know us, you know what we stand for, and you know that we don't give in. And that is why I have to say very clearly, national borders, sovereignty of states, and our integrity, these are all principles rooted in international law. These are fundamental principles formed after the Second World War so that small countries don't have to fear big ones. And so, this is not only about Greenland or Denmark. This is about the world order that we have built together across the Atlantic over generations. You cannot annex another country, not even with an argument about international security.
Hey, so you see it. Pretty much everything I said brought out in the scriptures, it's lining up with this lady's speech. I need to find out who she is, but she's obviously somebody high up giving this speech. And basically she's pleading. She's saying you can't do it. Like, please, like, look, you a strong country. Like, don't do this. Like, we your ally. Like, come on. But what's coming out is who they would make war with, they would. And hey, America, they not in the, they not in a mode of hearing pleading. They got a judgment coming to them, so they gotta act in ways to carry out that would be necessary for bringing judgment on them. This is another one, and this guy is a trip. This dude is like I don't know how to explain it. He's clearly a villain, but a comic book villain. It's like so hard to take this guy serious, but it's like, this guy is serious, but like, bro, you're so, when it comes to pass, Isaiah 14 comes to pass, like we see it now, but it's Isaiah 14 comes to pass, and it's going to say, is this the man? Is this the man that made kingdoms to tremble?
That is true. The United States of America is running Venezuela. By definition, that's true. Jake, we live in a world in which you can talk all you want about international niceties and everything else. But we live in a world, in the real world, Jake, that is governed by strength, that is governed by force, that is governed by power. By definition, we are in charge because we have the United States military stationed outside the country. We set the terms and conditions. We have a complete embargo on all of their oil and their ability to do commerce. So for them to do commerce, they need our permission. For them to be able to run an economy, they need our permission. So the United States is in charge. The United States is running the country during this transition period. The United States is using its military to secure our interests unapologetically in our hemisphere. We're a superpower, and under President Trump, we are going to conduct ourselves as a superpower. It is absurd that we would allow a nation in our own backyard to become the supplier of resources to our adversaries, but not to us, to hoard weapons from our adversaries, to be able to be positioned as an asset against the United States rather than on behalf of the United States.
Sovereign countries shouldn't be able to do what they want to do.
The Monroe Doctrine and the Trump Doctrine is all about securing the national interests of America. For years, we sent our soldiers to die in deserts in the Middle East to try to build them parliaments, to try to build them democracies, to try to give them more oil, to try to give them more resources. The future of the free world, Jake, depends on America being able to assert ourselves and our interests without apology. This whole period that happened after World War II, where the West began apologizing and groveling and begging
I don't even
and
know,
engaging these
honestly,
vast
what you're talking
reparations
about right
schemes.
now.
What I'm talking about, Jake, is the idea. And by the way, you do. I know you love doing that smarmy thing, Jake. And I was hoping to be better than that this time.
I asked you about if there should be an election.
Exactly.
I asked you if there would be an election in Venezuela. Right, but can you say that military action against Greenland is off the table?
It wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The Greenland has a population of 30,000 people, Jake. The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States. The United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
Hey, so he said a whole lot, but the scriptures I brought out, that same mindset, identifying who's who in these last days. And now that he said that, let me get this, which I thought that was a different clip, but let me get this real quick. This is, no, it's Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2. This is, just straight to the point. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2 and verse 11. And this is, the wicked, their mindset, which is Esau, Edom is the wicked. That's, what's that? Malachi chapter 1. Let me get that. I'll get it in a second, but let me read this first. It says, let our strength, Wisdom of Solomon chapter 2 and verse 11, let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. But they're saying our strength, we got the strength, we got the power, we got the might, we got the weaponry. Hey, let us, that's what the justice is. Everything else, yeah, you weak. You're weak. You're a small nation, Denmark. Let us take care of Greenland for you. You can't take care of all that. Let me see. Is it Micah? Or is it Malachi? I think it's. Oh, it's Malachi. My bad. This is Malachi chapter 1 and verse 4. Whereas Edom saith, We are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, They shall build, but I will throw down. They shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai have indignation forever. So the border of wickedness, this is Esau Edom. Wherever they go, wickedness follows. This is how you know who they are. This is H1366. Salakia. H1366. Gabawal. And it says, a chord, by implication, a boundary, an extension, a territory. So the border or territory enclosed within a boundary, the region. So wherever they go, that's the wickedness. Wherever they at, that's wickedness where they at. Wickedness. H7564. Rashai. Rashai. This is wrong, especially moral, false, wickedness, guilt, wickedness in civil relations, wickedness of enemies, wickedness in the ethical and religious sense. And Babylon the Great is putting out all of that. Let's go look at the root. Rashai, wickedness, wrongful, evil. Rashai, to be wicked, to act wickedly, to condemn as guilty. To condemn as guilty is in the ethical, okay. To act wickedly. So this is the wicked in the earth. So now I played them 2 videos. It says Micah chapter 2 and verse 1. And the header is, Woe to oppressors. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. And when the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. So, hey, that video, it started off speaking of, Venezuela, Maduro. They came over a whole plan. They devised it. They snatched up that leader, killed a few people in the process. Now they're taking over the country. U.S. is in charge now. What? Say something. Do something, punk. The same thing. Now Denmark saying, hey, look, come on now. Let's be reasonable. Look, we looked up to you, man. What's going on, dog? Why you want... Come on, my grandmama gave me that country. The same thing. They're devising a plan. How they going to take over? We're going to take over Greenland. That's what they're saying. Y'all can't handle that. Y'all can't handle all that. What are y'all doing with it anyway? What gives you the right? What right do you have to Greenland? Oh, because you ruled it for a while? Well, let me hold it for you. This is a matter of national security. Verse 2, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses, and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. But the point being here, and they covet fields. What they want it for? Resources. Whatever else. Whatever they got, we taking it. And they take them by violence. Verse 3, therefore thus saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. So you got destruction coming for you. You got them ICBMs coming. You got a destruction coming. And good for you. Good for you. You know what, since I had it pulled up, what is it? What is this one? I had this is in January, I put in there America Eyes Greenland, and I had it in AI mode, and it says in January 2026, President Donald Trump has aggressively renewed his push for the United States to acquire and exert greater control over Greenland. This renewed focus follows a series of successful U.S. military interventions elsewhere, most notably the recent capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in January 2026. So, the current strategy and actions, which, and this is just lightly touching on it. And this lesson wasn't supposed to, meant to go deep into it, but this is current strategy and action, special envoy appointment. Trump appointed Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry as a special envoy to Greenland to spearhead discussions on acquiring the territory, the military options. The White House has stated that using military force is always an option to secure the island, and Trump himself has refused to rule it out. So, hey, they're gonna do it. They're gonna take it. Proposed acquisition models. This devil's got his. Hey, he is so haughty right now. Can't nothing stop him. Like, it's gonna be so bad that Yahweh Shai is going to step in. The Son of the Heavenly Father is literally going to step in to stop this madness. Because this devil will not be stopped. This devil will destroy the entire world if he's allowed to continue. Which, hey, the earth abideth forever, but hey, if he could, he would. The proposed acquisition models. Which that's all I'm gonna get from that. This is annexation. I just looked up the word. It's good to look up things. It says annexation is the process of adding territory to a political entity, either by a nation incorporating other states' land, often illegally in modern international law, or a municipality absorbing adjacent unincorporated areas. As seen historically with Texas joining the U.S. legally, which it can't be legal because Texas was stolen land. They took it by force and joined up. Matter of fact, the whole U.S. is stolen land. And what? Legally, it's often forced or unilateral, generally forbidden by international law today. And they're saying he's breaking the law. Denmark is saying he's breaking the law. International law, they're saying, hey, look, you're breaking the law. But who's going to stop him? At this point, who's going to stop the war? This is national annexation, types of annexation, and I'm going to get to national annexation. A state's unilateral claim of sovereignty over another state's territory, typically following military occupation, like German annexation of Austria or the U.S. annexation of Texas. So they're gonna occupy it militarily, and this is I just had this pulled up. Greenland's resources. It says Greenland possesses significant untapped natural resources, particularly minerals and rare earth elements, and the accessibility of which is increasing due to melting ice caps. The economy is currently dominated by the fishing industry and a subsidy from the Danish government. So they have minerals and rare earth elements, which previously, like it says, it has really been untapped because it's an island covered in ice, glaciers and whatnot. But due to these things melting, now you have access to it. Greenland is considered to have enormous potential for a wide array of natural resources, although a large portion remains unexplored. The government's goal is to develop the mining industry to achieve economic self-sufficiency. So they want to be self-sufficient. U.S. is saying, nah, fuck that. You're gonna be self-sufficient under us. It says rare earth elements. Greenland holds some of the world's largest deposits of rare earth elements. which are vital components in high-tech gadgets and electronic vehicles or electric vehicles. So, and this is all a resources. You need these things for high-tech gadgets. You know, the type of technology that's coming out now, you need these. Especially electric vehicles. You need lithium and whatever else, cobalt. Minerals and metals. The island has known occurrences of various metals, including iron ore, zinc, lead, gold, copper, nickel, titanium, and tungsten. Strategic materials, molybdenum, and magnesium deposits are being actively pursued, with an exploitation license granted for the project, which could supply a significant portion of the European Union's need for these materials. Which, hey, that would help out the EU, but hey, the whore ain't gonna allow that. Uranium. Deposits of uranium exist, but the government has implemented a ban on uranium mining, which has halted the development of some rare earth projects where it was a byproduct. Which, hey, that's the U.S. is gotta have an interest in that. Oil and natural gas. Geologists estimate a significant offshore reserve of oil and natural gas, but exploration has been limited, and the government banned new oil and gas exploration in 2021 due to environmental concerns. Hey, Babylon's gonna turn that all around. Hey, that's all I'm gonna get from that. But, you know, Lord willing, hey, this has been being edifying. You know, these Esau, Edom is being revealed in these last days. Who this fourth kingdom is, who the whore is, you know, what's going on right now, where we are. This is Genesis chapter 27 and verse 39, and this is going all the way back to the beginning. You know, when Esau got his blessing. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. So it says thy dwelling. So let's look at that. It says H4186 Mawashab says seat, assembly, dwelling place. Let's see here. Time of dwelling, the location, situation, location. Let's look at that. The fatness of the earth. This is H4924 Mashaman. And it says the fatness, fat piece, a fertile place. You know, and then it goes on. It says fatness, fatness, fat pieces, olive or oil and olive oil. Fertile spots or places. So oil, it goes into oil too. The fatness of the fattest places, not just the best places with the resources, all this stuff. That's going to be where Esau Edom is going to be. He's going to want all the resources to himself. Verse 40, and by thy sword shalt thou live. So by your sword shalt thou live. So how is he getting these places? By his sword, by his weapons. You know, the modern day sword is bombs, guns, dudes, laser weapons. You know, his diplomacy. That interview of him, that Edomite speaking, him using his tongue like a sword. And by thy sword thou shalt live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And that was during after the rule of King Solomon, because the Edomites rebelled. This is when they during the rule of King David and King Solomon, and the Edomites were in subjection. So now, ever since the downfall of the kingdom of Israel, since it's split, and the Edomites been roaming free. But that's getting ready to change when Yahushua returns. Y'all are going in chains. You elites going first. But the point of this being, by thy sword thou shalt live. How is he getting these places? Like being a bully on the block, by living by his sword. You're seeing Esau Edom being revealed. So this is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 5, and I'm going to close out after this. This is Habakkuk 2 and verse 5. Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine, which when you read that in Jeremiah, and also in Revelation it says this whore got everybody drunk off the wine. Yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, he's a proud man. And you hear how proud that devil was. What right do you have to this? We got the we got the power, we got the law. He's a proud man, neither keepeth at home. So he don't keep at home. Hey, his home, hey, he looks like, here in the US, whatever, in America, but his home is really in Petra, in Edom, in Mount Seir. That's his homeland. That's where he's been. And that place, he ain't dwelling there. That place is just a tourist attraction. And the only place they go to is that Petra at the Red Rocks or whatever. It says, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. So he ain't at home. He always in somebody else's business. In somebody's backyard, moving landmarks. Who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. So he ain't gonna be satisfied. He got his whole America and then some. He's ruling over the world, and he wants some more. He wants your souls, which is why he's trying to come out with the MOTB, the micro C hip, the Pledge of Allegiance. He wants everything. He wants to be the Most High. Oops. And he is as death. That red horse that went out, that took peace from the earth, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. So, hey, how is he doing? How has he been gathering the nations unto himself? By displacing their leaders, by displacing their countries, by making their countries unlivable, by selling the American dream, making it to look like, oh yeah, you can come here, you can become rich. And then when you come here, you get in debt. You come here, you get in debt. You get hooked on drugs. You lose your family. You come here, you get divorced. You come here, your son becomes a mo, your daughter becomes a hoe. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. And he gets away with this. By giving out loans with high interest rates. By getting you in debt. By trapping you. Woe unto him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. So everybody sees this devil, how he moves, how he operates, his schemes that he comes up with. Getting you in things that you will never pay off. And you have to do them. You have to get a loan for certain things, and the interest rates will be freaking ridiculous. You want to go to college, now you thousands and thousands of dollars in debt for a degree you can't even get a job in. Let's get this word for thick clay, because it's very important. This is different than in Daniel 2, just because it mentions clay. That clay in Daniel 2, like I mentioned, was going into weak nations, weak economic nations, weak military nations, and a strong nation like iron in comparison, showing they don't mix. But this word for thick clay, this is H5671 Ibatyat. And it says something pledged, pawn goods. It says weight of pledges, heavy debts. So it's a heavy debt. And it's comparing it to a thick clay. This is heavy debt. You can't get out of it. You buried under it. This man don't believe in no jubilee. This man don't believe in helping the poor. This man is gonna go down in history as the example of what not to be, how not to rule the earth. Because this is the last kingdom that's gonna rule. Now after this, it's the kingdom of heaven. The saints shall take the kingdom. You're gonna see an earth ruled in righteousness. You're going to see a earth ruled in righteousness. You're going to see the trees singing. You're going to see an earth that you've never seen before. You know, it's going to start with the wicked going into captivity. These other nations going to get into captivity. And the righteous being restored to their right place. The righteous being the Israelites. You know, starting with Yahushai and 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Hey, everything's out of place. That's why you're seeing it like this. But hey, Lord willing, this has been edifying. I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And peace and blessings to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Hey, Shalom.